you're running ads, one of the most frustrating things is you get people booking a call and you get the show up of those calls being quite low, the percentage. So I want to throw some ideas out there on why show up rates are what they might be, some considerations to have. If you're not yet running ads and you're not getting calls on the calendar yet, this is something that you just need to make a note of for when you do. And if you are running ads and you're noticing that the call show up rates are not as good as they need to be, then some considerations to have on that element of things. So first and foremost, I think it's important to realize that we're on the internet, right? And I know that's suffice to say, but like the internet is crazy and there's so many people saying so many different things, and it's such a non-committal platform that people can sign up for all sorts of things and do all sorts of things. And then you wonder why they don't show up to a call. It's probably because they booked 40 other calls with 40 other vendors who do something very similar to us. It's not uncommon that when they get on a call with us, they said, hey, this is my second call today of someone in your field, and I'm just testing you out and comparing you to everybody else. So like, this is a normal phenomenon, right? The second thing we have to realize is that when people book things, like life gets in the way, right? And it's not that people are not committed to anything. It's that they're committed to something, and that something is not us. And that's just going to be true for all of us. How many times have we registered for a webinar and not showed up? How many times have we set up an appointment and not showed up? So it's kind of part of the human nature. But what I want to look at today is recognizing some best practices that we could put into place to ensure that we can increase the show up rate as much as possible. And some of that is logistics, some of that is positioning, some of that is automations, and some of that is just mindset type stuff. So let's just start with logistics. Generally speaking, if you're going to set your calendar to allow someone to book a call, we don't want to allow anyone to really book a call any further than 72 hours ahead of time, right? 48 hours is even best, but 72 hours, which is 3 days ahead of the time that they see the calendar. We start to notice that if someone starts booking a call day 4 out, 5 out, 6 out, 7 out, the likelihood of them showing up to a call because something happens between the time they book the call and the time that call time arrives is very high. And so they abandon ship. There's just another thing, another commitment that's more pressing than to get on a call. Plus, there is such a thing as, let's call it, there's buyer's remorse. There's like call scheduling remorse. Like people are like, oh, I'm excited. I saw the funnel. I'm interested. I want to book a call. And they book a call. And then something goes in their mind to, did I make the right decision? And they see another ad and they get distracted. It's like, oh man, there's something else that's better. And I don't want to get sold to. And it's going to be all this kind of stuff. I just ain't going to show up to the call. And I'm not going to do the courtesy of canceling. Right? So the shorter you make that window between when someone can schedule a call and to actually show up to the call, the higher likely people are going to show up. So that's number one. Number two, from a logistical standpoint, I know this goes without saying, but we should have a system in there, whether either manually or automatedly, that confirms calls, right? And what I mean by that is, like, if you book a call with your dentist, or you book a call with your doctor, or you book a call wherever the heck you book a call, there's a high probability that their front desk is going to call you to confirm that you did in fact book the call and you will show up. I had this one, I see a surgeon, semi-regularly here in my hometown, and they send out a text message and they take it a step further, which I might actually implement. They take it a step further where they send out a text that says, hey, this is your confirmation code. In order to confirm your appointment, you have to text us back with this code. So you can't even say, I accidentally didn't even read the code. And I was like, yes, confirmed. And the reply text was, no, send us the confirmation code or your appointment is not confirmed. I'm like, oh, brilliant. Because my squirrel mind was just like confirmed, right? I didn't even read the text. And secondly, it is enforcing me to take an extra step to confirm the call. So we always have to think about whether manually, either our salesperson following up before the call, a day before the call or whatever, confirming, hey, I see you in the calendar for tomorrow. Are you going to be there? If not, we need to reschedule, or some sort of an automated text that requires one step further, which is, again, is not just, hey, confirm the call, say yes, but they have to enter in some sort of a keyword or a code or something that actually activates this. And I promise you, if you start doing that, yes, the amount of calls might go down because people are not confirming. But the upside to that is that the people who do confirm are most likely going to show up, and you're not wasting your time waiting around at 1 o'clock to get on a call that nobody shows up to. So please understand that just because we're on the online world and we like to like over automate stuff and make it super passive, we have to take lessons from the barbers and the hairdressers and the dentists and the doctors and the surgeons and the chiropractors and everything that we do and use. Cedra asks, do we cancel unconfirmed calls? Yes, we do at this point, 100%. And if they don't confirm, the likelihood of them showing up is so low. And there's that part of you that feels like, oh man, what if they just did show up? It doesn't, if they don't know, and think about the psychology of this. If they don't confirm a call, and again, you can ask for a confirmation in multiple ways, right? You could ask for via text message response, but maybe they have blockers on their SMS or whatever. You can ask for an email response, or you can actually have a physical phone call go out and come back. And that could be an automated voice drop or whatever. But either way, we are requiring a person to confirm a call, just like any other marketplace, just like any other business, just like any other thing. Because here's the reality. If a person doesn't know how to confirm a call, A, the likelihood of them showing up is low. B, the likelihood of them having a great call with you is low. And C, if they do actually sign up, do we actually want a client that doesn't know how to follow instructions? Right. So the answer is probably no to all that. So the call volume will go down, but the ones that do show up do go up. And those who do confirm and go through that process end up showing up. So that's another thing. Whatever we do, please understand that either manually or automatedly, we need to get a confirmation for that call by whatever means necessary. Email, phone call, live, text message, all of the above, one of the above, some of the above. It doesn't matter. We are requesting confirmations for them to do that. So that's the second thing. The third thing, and again, I'm just going off the top here. Remember, if people don't show up to a call, so I think I gave this example before, but I'll give it again. The other day, it's probably like a year or two ago, I was driving one of my cars and I got pulled over by the cops. And I'm like, I'm not speeding. I don't know why the hell you're bothering me. And apparently my truck has all these illegal things on it. Whether it's the tint, whether it's my lights, whether it's whatever, they're like, you got to take this off your truck. And he gave me a letter that basically said, here, you have 3 days to take this off, and you have to go to the police office by this time at this date, showing that you've done this work. Otherwise, you're going to get a fine and all this other stuff that goes on with it. Right? So what do you think I did? I obviously showed up to the police office at the right time that they told me to, with the proof in hand to say I did it. Now, why did I do that? Because there was value and there were consequences, right? Most of the time when we are offering our calls to people, we are not offering value or consequences. We're just like, I'll show up to the call. It's going to be a cool call. It'll be a sales call. And they're like, well, I don't really value that. If my son has soccer, or my daughter has this, or garbage day happens, like, I'm just not going to show up. So one of the things we have to remember from a positioning standpoint is that when we offer calls, we have to offer them in such a way where A, we've got to be so darn proud and so darn sure of our own system that we're basically saying, hey, if you're getting on a call with me, it's because I want to interview you to see if you're qualified for the program. If ever someone comes on the call with the mindset of, I'm going to be sold to, and I'm going to interview the guy as to whether or not I want to join the program, guy or gal, the positioning is all off, and the likelihood of them taking that call seriously, the likelihood of them showing up to the call, the likelihood of any of that happening is very slim. So again, it's a value-based thing, and there can sometimes be consequences. And again, we can determine what those consequences are, but sometimes the consequences are, hey, if you don't show up to a call, you have no chance to reschedule. That could be one. Some of us, if we really want to, and if you're doing your own calls, this might be worth a consideration. You take a seat deposit for the call, meaning like Stripe and various credit card processors has the option to put an authorization hold on a credit card. And so in order for someone to book a call, you say, hey, we're putting an authorization hold on your credit card for $100. We're not going to charge your card. Don't worry about it. And that hold gets lifted as soon as you attend the call. But if you don't, then it'll be automatically charged. So there's consequences now attached to it. And then you explain to the person, this is because I don't want to waste my time and I don't want you to waste yours. So we only work with serious people. And that's why we put that. So that is a consideration. If you're taking your own calls, it might be worth doing something like that. But again, value and consequences are one of the reasons why people either show up or don't show up. And that comes just straight up from our positioning. Do people feel like they're going to get value from showing up to the call? Do they feel like this is an important thing for them to attend to? It's no different. I'll give you one other example. It's no different than when I was interviewing or trying to get a sense of which surgeon was going to do my back surgery. right? I showed up to the call because I understand it was important. I wanted to speak to them. They held a position of like, I'm the best surgeon in the world. And so you better show up to that call, because if you miss the call, there's no time to reschedule. And we understand this in normal everyday life. Like when a surgeon does that, or when the IRS does that and gives us like, and says, show up to something, we show up. But when we translate that into our weird world of internet, we negate all the normal practices that every other normal business and institution uses to get people to commit and to show up to things. So keep that in mind. The third thing I will say, and then I will open it up to questions, and this is just something new that I'm experimenting with. So I don't have solid hard data on this yet, but I will be testing this, and I'll get back to everybody, is when I went to get a back procedure done a couple of weeks ago, I was speaking with the front desk person, and they represented a doctor there. And I said, hey, just out of curiosity, what's your no-show rate? So people who book an appointment to come see the general practitioner, what is the percentage of people that don't show up? And she said 1%. I said, huh. And I said, what about the doctor beside you? And they said they have a 30% no-show rate. So I was like, okay, so there's something here. Tell me what you guys do. And then she said something without even realizing it that I think might be one of the keys that we could start implementing here. And that is this. She goes, the difference between us and the other doctor is that for us, if a patient wants to schedule an appointment, they're not allowed to just go on some online calendar and book a time. That's what the other doc does, and they get a 30% no-show rate. And she's like, I think it's because there's just no commitment. There's no like effort. You just pick a time, a random time, you get it in the calendar, and you show up or you don't. For us, if you want to get on the calendar, you either have to talk to a human being, or you have to text back with an individual, and we have to collectively select a time. So they make 2 times available. They're basically like, hey, Perry, you want to have an appointment on Thursday? Okay, we've got 2 and 4 o'clock. Which works better for you? You'll say 4 o'clock. Great. I'll get that in and I'll send you a confirmation. And so the short of it is, she's saying when the other doctor allows people to randomly pick a time in their calendar, those people don't show up, which is, by the way, what all of us do in the internet world. But when we have to talk to the person and only make a couple of time slots available, they pick that time, there's more commitment to it, and then those people are most likely to show up. So if you're in high level, there's an AI that allow you to do this, or you can hire someone to do this. This is what we're experimenting with now, is that after someone fills out an application form, they're not going to be taken to, we're split testing this. They're not going to be just taken straight to the calendar. They're going to be taken to a page that essentially says, hey, congratulations for filling out your application. Your application is about to be reviewed. And after review, we'll get back to you if you qualify with some times on the calendar that will be made available to you. And again, based on the branch logic of the questions that are being asked, they'll be determined qualified or not qualified. If they are qualified within a given window, and let's call it like 12 or 15 minutes after the application is submitted, an auto text will go out to them and say, hey, Perry, thanks so much for filling out your application. We have reviewed it, and you are able to schedule a call with one of our senior consultants. Now, I have 2 time slots available, Tuesday or Thursday, 1 and 3 p.m., which works better for you. And the AI automatically goes into the calendar, looks at what's available, pulls out 3 slots, makes them available to the individual. That person will say 1 p.m. on Thursday. Great. The AI will confirm it and say, just make sure this is the time you want. Please respond confirmed, or respond with this code confirming. If they do, then it'll pop up. It'll trigger the Google Calendar. It'll trigger all the other follow-ups. And we're going to see how that does. Because if what this doctor lady is saying is true, I think we will get a way better show-up rate when it's done this way, rather than people randomly allowing them to select any time on the calendar that just looks available to them. And this was originally presented to me back in the day from a company called WooSender, who does it. It's an AI like call setting service. And we were arguing because they're like, trust me, Nick, don't let people book, let the AI book it for them. And I'm like, dude, all the people who are never going to respond and they're not going to book a time in the calendar. And they said, trust me, the show up rates are way better. And I admittingly ignored them. And I said, no, I just want people on my calendar. And then we had show up rates. Now we still have a 70% show up rate, which means a 30% no show rate, which is way higher than industry standard. But I would love for that to be 80, 85, 90%. And then we're not wasting anybody's time. So that's the third just consideration I want to throw out there, that if you want to experiment with on any level, like you don't need the AI to do it. You could simply have a page that says, thanks for filling out your application. Someone will be in touch with you shortly to let you know if you qualify and if there's availability. And then you could do that manually. You can have a VA do that. You can have all sorts of things do it. So in summary, then, when we're talking about no-shows, and again, there's a lot to go here, and I'm open to answering questions around this. Logistically, you want to keep things in mind. Are there reminders in place? Are there confirmations in place? Are there only allowed people booking 3 days in advance and no, really not more than that? Like, logistically, do you have all the ducks aligned? Secondly, positioning. Are we positioning the call and our offer and our business and all of that as essentially, and I know this sounds weird, but it's like, you have the privilege to be considered in our program, right? And that is kind of essentially the mentality that we should have. And that all starts with category design, so that we are the only people in our category who perform a certain service and get a certain result and do it in a certain way. That way, nobody can be like, oh, I'm not going to work with them because everybody else does the same thing. You build the category, you maintain that positioning, and in that positioning, when you offer a call, you have a highly likely more chance that people will show up to it. And then again, thirdly, is this idea of taking back a little bit of the control. And when you are taking back a little bit of that control, then you don't let someone choose any day and time. You give them options. They commit to a certain day and time, and then you can flip that back.